Yes, guys, what's going on? Welcome to Stretford Paddock. I am Adam Mckola, and this is the new episode in a show that's always going to come for you the day after a game. And unfortunately, we have to start with a defeat. So this is 7 reasons why Manchester United lost against Crystal Palace. Now, before we get stuck into those reasons, I want you to do us a favour. And you see that little red button down there, or is it down there? Click that button, subscribe to Stretford Paddock. And if you've already subscribed, then join. What are you waiting for? Reason number 1, Luke Shaw isn't good enough. Not in my opinion anyway. He isn't good enough for Manchester United, especially in these games where we're playing against teams that like to sit back. Now, we know there were times where Crystal Palace pushed out and they hit us on the counter-attack. But when Manchester United were up against 2 banks of 4, a bank of 4 and a bank of 5, Luke Shaw isn't quite good enough. Now, against Aston Villa, when Villa were getting forward and there were gaps in behind, you saw times where Luke Shaw would overlap Marcus Rashford and get in behind him and giving him an option for the overlapping pass, or even just taking a man away from the player. But Luke Shaw wasn't doing that. And when teams sit back and there's less space for him to run into, he runs out of ideas. It's no surprise we've been linked with the likes of Sergio Reguilon, Alex Telles. There's no surprise that we've been linked with these players because they are better than Luke Shaw going forward. Defensively, he might have a little edge on them. He might be a little bit better than them. But going forward, he doesn't offer enough. And when you think of the great Manchester United fullbacks down the years, what did they do? They offered us something going forward. Think of the left-backs. Patrice Evra, not only was he great defensively, but he got forward. Think about Dennis Irwin, not only great defensively, but got forward, scored free kicks and penalties as well. And even on the right-hand side, Gary Neville was the most one-dimensional footballer ever. But guess what? He got forward, supported his winger, and always helped them out, whether it was with an overlapping run, an underlapping run, whatever, he helped them out. And we don't see that enough from Luke Shaw. He's not the only reason we lost against Crystal Palace, but he was definitely one of them. And we need to improve at left-back position for games, especially when we're at home. Reason number 2, Manchester United took way too many long shots. We had 9 shots from outside the box, just 7 from inside the box. Obviously, one of those were Van der Beek's goals. Most of them were off target when we did eventually shoot inside the box, but far too many coming from outside the area. And what that shows you is we failed to break down Crystal Palace when they were in defensive positions, when they had their blocks there. We were getting frustrated. We were trying to find the pass, trying to force the pass, trying to slip it through, and then thinking, oh, forget it, let's just have a pop. And it weren't going in. And Manchester United need to start creating things for the players. We saw Anthony Martial in the game against Crystal Palace, and although he didn't look, at his best, he also didn't have much supply. Can you remember a time where we created an opportunity for him? Because I can't. So we need to start working on breaking down these teams. Now, when you're playing with a Paul Pogba that is giving the ball away every other pass, when Bruno Fernandes isn't quite at the races, and when Scott McTominay, has his limitations, then you're obviously going to find it harder to do that. But we need to get a lot better and stop resorting to these long shots. Now, we mentioned it briefly there, but reason number 3 is a poor performance from Paul Pogba. Everybody knows I love Paul Pogba. Massive fan of him. I think he's our best player, especially when he's on form. But he wasn't on form now. You could blame Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for starting him. I don't think Ole should have started him in this game, especially after having the coronavirus, coming back late to training, all that kind of stuff. Donny van der Beek and McTominay played against Aston Villa. It kind of seemed like a sensible thing to put them in together against Crystal Palace. But Ole didn't do that. And once Paul Pogba played, the responsibility is over to him. And I just thought silly fouls he was giving away, 1 or 2 of them, you can't complain about. But when it's 3, 4, 5 of them and you're giving free kicks away in difficult positions, I think it's a valid complaint. In terms of giving the ball away with just passing as well, like just passing the ball away to Crystal Palace. Now, I know Bruno Fernandes did that a few times and many other players were giving the ball away. But when it's Paul Pogba, you don't expect that from Paul Pogba. You expect supreme passing. You expect him to be bringing all his teammates into the game. And he just didn't do that. Now, it's not on him, on his own, but we need Paul Pogba to be much better. And Paul Pogba himself, look, as a Paul Pogba fan, and there's many of us on this channel, there's occasions where we rush out to defend Paul Pogba because of the criticism that he does get, which may be unfair. But sometimes when he has a bad game, we just have to firm it and say he had a bad game. Because even he would say that, even he would expect better of him. And we were expecting better of him yesterday against Palace, and he didn't quite deliver. In at number 4, it's Ollie's strange team selection. We have to go with the strange team selection. Couple of positions that were a little bit weird to me. As I said, McTominay, Pogba in that midfield. I don't think we had the energy, the legs, the fitness in there, especially with Paul Pogba coming back late. Daniel James playing on the right. I predicted he would start there, but that's not my preferred selection. And we saw Daniel James start there, and I just kind of felt, with all the talk about Mason Greenwood, that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would pull him out of the team, which was probably the right decision with so much pressure on him. But then when you see him come on the field and the quality that he has, and the difference that he makes to the side, you know, I think it was obvious that Mason Greenwood should have started. So whilst it weren't 3, 4, 5 strange decisions, I think the 1 or 2 that we did make affected us in key areas. And when you're losing that midfield battle, like we did in this game against Crystal Palace, then you're on to a loser from the start. So that strange team selection, I don't think helped us at all. So Ollie has to take the blame for that one. Number 6, we weren't ruthless enough in possession. Now I'm going to look at my phone for this stat. 602 completed passes. Palace completed 135. We had 2 big chances. Palace had 2 big chances. 232 attacking third passes from United. So 232 of our passes, of our 600. So more than a third of our passes were in that final third. And Palace had just 41 in that final third, but still managed to score 3 goals. And it was just so obvious that, you know, when we weren't making the most of our possession, when we weren't creating those chances, when we weren't taking them opportunities to score goals, that they were going to hit us on the break. Our defence, Lindelof, Maguire, were all the way up to the halfway line or thereabouts. Our fullbacks had gone beyond them. They had AU and Zaha, and they were killing us on the counter-attack for fun. And Maguire and Lindelof just never got a hold of it. Never, ever got a hold of it. But also in front of them, they never had much of a midfield play in there. There was just a catalogue of errors from this Manchester United team. And I felt like, you know, not using that possession properly was a big one of them. We played in front of Crystal Palace a lot. We didn't get in between the lines. We didn't try to do something different. And I feel that's why Donny van de Beek would have been the guy today. You saw him when he come on. He was occupying those positions. He was getting in between defenders and fullbacks, getting in between midfielders and centre halves, and trying to take up half spaces where he could be found and then create danger for somebody else. We didn't have enough people doing that. And it's a shame when it's your new signing, your only new signing, doing it on the first day of the season. Number 6, Amsterdam Donny. Dutch Donny. Damn Donny. Whatever you want to call him, Donny from Dam. He was our best player. And that's a problem. 1, because he's a new player. 2, because he started on the bench. Donny van de Beek was on the bench. Come on, made everyone else look shit. That's frustrating. That is annoying. That is a problem because it points back to one of the other reasons that we made the wrong team selection, incorrect team selection. Van de Beek should have started. But also, he's the one that should be looking at other players saying, help me get into the game. Bring me into the game. Now, before we went for the break, before we had pre-season, before, you know, all that bit after the coronavirus break, the second half of the season last year, we looked really good. You know, we had players doing the things that Donny van de Beek was. But when he come on, he was the only one doing them. And that's an issue. It looks like we haven't been working on things on the training pitch. That's an issue. Now, I know I watched a Luke Shaw interview after the Villa game, and he said there was a long period of time where we only had 4 players in training, in pre-season training. Now, that's difficult to then work on shape, work on passing, work on movement, work on, you know, phases of play. It's difficult to do that if you've only got 4 players in and, you know, you've not even got enough to do in 11. And then we had slowly players coming back in from international break. But, you know, these boys have played together last season. It's not like we've got a whole new team. It's not like we've got a new manager. Like, we played the same formation. We played a team we lost against last year. And we never, ever seemed up for it. Like, where was the motivation? Where was this is the first day of the season, let's fucking get at them. There was none of that there. And ultimately, when Donny van de Beek's your best player and he's starting on the bench and coming late, that's a massive problem for Manchester United. And that's one of the reasons why we lost. Now, in at number 7 is our poor transfer business. Now, I hate to put this in there because I feel like we're excusing the players that were out on the pitch from their poor performance and their poor result against Crystal Palace. But also, it's factual, isn't it? This summer, it's been a poor summer. We don't need Jadon Sancho or Alex Telles or Sergio Reguilon to beat Crystal Palace. We need them to help do our long-term objectives and fulfill those long-term objectives. But ultimately today, we had problems. And maybe the team, maybe the manager, maybe, you know, the fans' negativity and frustrations are feeding across to the players, to the manager, and are preventing him from being able to do things that he wants to do, or making the club just not feel as positive as it once was. Now that comes from the board, Ed Woodward, Matt Judge, the Glazers. We know they are leeches. And every time we get to this position where a manager gets us into Champions League football, they pull back on the investment when teams around us are all improving. Now at the moment, if we don't improve, Chelsea have improved, Liverpool have improved, City have improved, we're going to be trying to scrape out a 4th spot. And when you look at Arsenal and Spurs and all these teams improving, Wolves, Everton, is that guaranteed? Even if we sign Jadon Sancho and we sign Alex Telles and we fucking sign Bobby Charlton, we're still not guaranteed that top 4 spot. So how can they expect us to go back into the campaign with pretty much the same squad that we had last season and say, go on, you finished level on points with Chelsea last year, who have just had £250 million investment, now go and do the same again. In fact, go and close that gap onto the top teams. Bear in mind, Liverpool, the champions, they just bought Bayern Munich's best midfielder, and City are still spending money. What planet are these dickheads from? I don't get it. And the thing is, like Steve said earlier on his review, whatever he did, on his review, he said, it's because these lot don't want to improve. These lot don't want to win things. Their remit isn't to win trophies. Their remit is to get Champions League football, get more money in their pocket, keep sucking Man United dry, and let's see where they can take that to. And unfortunately, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's got to try and work through that and try and get the team up to a position where they can challenge, despite the fact these Glazers, Woodward, Judge, and all them clowns are purposely holding the club back. So, those are 7 reasons why Manchester United lost against Crystal Palace today. I have been Adam Mckola. This has been Stretford Paddock. If you missed the fan cams yesterday, go and check them out. And of course, get your 7 reasons in those comments below. Why did United lose? Is there just 1 reason? Is there 2? Is there 3? I don't know. I can think of 2. Glazers and Woodward pricks. Anyway, I've been Adam Mckola. I'm out of here.